Hey everyone, I just wanted to do a quick video to address some of the more common comments on the recent videos. I really try to respond to all the comments individually, but sometimes there are so many and the YouTube system isn't actually very good for keeping track of comments, so sometimes they slip through, and I want to make sure I address some of the really common comments here. So the first one I get pretty frequently, and I think it's a really important question, and I have a pretty strong opinion about it, so I'm going to tackle that one now. So this applies to a lot of beginners and people who just want to expand their knowledge base in general DIY practices. And the question boils down to, in terms of skill acquisition, where should I start? Should I start with carpentry, electronics, welding, and how should I approach these things? And to me, the skill that's actually the most important to build is your confidence to try something, to fail at it, and to keep trying until you get it right. So it doesn't really matter what you're trying to do. It's much more important that you're trying to do something. And from there, I'd say just go with what you're passionate about right now. So if you're really intrigued by electronics right now, dive into it. Watch some YouTube videos, take an online course, buy some basic tools, and try a basic project. And just keep going with electronics as long as you're still passionate about it. If it starts to get boring, you can always come back to it later. And if you start to get passionate about something else, go in that direction. But the most important thing is that you're always doing something. So you're spending your time practicing and learning skills and building that confidence that with the next project, you'll be able to do it. So building confidence to try things is the key, and the skills will follow with the practice. Another thing is that learning directly from people has several advantages over trying to learn online. So if you have any local resources where you can take classes, like a community college or something, take advantage of that, because if you have an actual teacher, they can be watching you, giving you pointers, they can respond to your specific questions and give you really tailored answers to what you're trying to learn. And then be as curious as you can. Ask why about everything. There's no point at which learning more about a subject can ever do you wrong. People also mention my workshops a lot, and I'll just mention that that's 30 years worth of collecting tools. So don't be intimidated by not having the coolest tools right to begin with. I started with basically nothing, and I've just been adding to the collection for 30 years. It's basically the only thing I spend money on, but you got to start somewhere, so just get the basics that you can afford. And the last thing I'll mention to do with this is about safety, and it's something that gets completely overlooked in most YouTube videos because we just don't have time to talk about it and keep the audience interested. But safety is really important, especially your lungs and your eyes. I've never met a craftsman who said, I wish I had skipped some safety measures, but I've met plenty of people who need oxygen to help breathe, or they had a catastrophic eye injury, or they can't walk very well because they have 2 knee replacements because they didn't wear knee pads. It's no joke, and there's no avoiding it as you age. So research the safety precautions of whatever it is you're getting into and buy the best safety equipment you can. So the next question is, am I going to sell plans for any of my builds? And yes, and I really want to, and we're working really hard to get these out, but it's pretty difficult. Basically, all my builds, you're seeing the first prototype version. So I have to go through and make sure they're safe. I have to work out any kinks so that I don't sell you a set of plans for something that doesn't actually work. And then there's a ton of liability involved. So there's a lot more to it than just putting the plans together, but we're working as hard as we can on it, and we're trying to get them out as soon as possible, and we'll let you know as soon as some are. Okay, there were a few recurrent questions on the recent gasifier and retort build. One was, why didn't I use something more robust internally like fire brick? And there's several reasons that I went with the insulation that I did. Masonry products would be a whole lot heavier, so the unit itself would be a lot less mobile. Right now I can just move it around by myself, but any heavier and I would definitely need to hook it up to something like a tractor to move it around. And then along with weight, it would add a ton of thermal mass. So the whole unit would take quite a while to warm up. And the batch of charcoal actually only took about 2 hours to make. And right now, most of the heat is just bouncing off the insulation and going straight into the barrel. Whereas if there was a thermal mass sucking that up, it would take a lot longer to preheat the system. And I think it would probably add 30-40 minutes to a batch of charcoal. Another question is about storing the syngas, and I'm hoping you guys can help me out with this one. So the main way that it has been traditionally stored is, I think they're called gasometers, and it's basically giant tanks that fill up with the gas, and it's roughly at 1 atmosphere, so it's very low pressure gas. The problem with this is that you need huge volumes to capture a reasonable amount of gas to run an engine for a while, which they did used to have in the early 1900s. They would have these massive storage tanks and just fill them up with wood gas, but it's not very practical on a DIY level. And the other way is compressing the gas, which adds a whole slew of safety questions and legal questions, but also how to do it, because things like propane tanks are actually designed to store liquid propane, and they're not designed to store compressed gas. So I'm not sure that they would exactly be compatible. Anyway, if you guys have any ideas on Syngas storage, I'd love to hear them. And the next question is an issue with DeWalt batteries and running the Arduino. DeWalt batteries don't actually have a full BMS on them. It's in the tool itself. I don't think it's a great design choice. To me, it makes sense that you would want to protect each battery. I don't know why they did it. Maybe it's to reduce the battery cost. So by putting one BMS in each tool, then they don't need to put them in every individual battery. But it does mean that the batteries don't actually have their own individual protection when being used for anything else. I kind of consider it a design flaw and think that the other manufacturers who put the BMS in the battery, that they made the right choice. But over discharging the battery is a consideration that you want to watch out for if you use DeWalt's for any projects like this. Now we'll get on to the aluminum pour, which was really fun, but there were a few really good comments there. I used borax as a flux in the video because I have a ton of it for my blacksmithing work already, but apparently it's not really a good flux for aluminum. And from what you guys told me, a better combination is 50% table salt, so sodium chloride, and then 50% potassium chloride. And I'm gonna try this out on my next melt, and I really appreciate everyone who pointed that out, and I just wanted to mention it here, so in case anybody else is watching, they can learn that too. And I had a lot of questions about why am I shredding and washing the cans? And my idea was that I wanted to get the cans as clean and dry as possible. So if they're not shredded, it'd be really difficult to clean the inside and to make sure that the inside had absolutely no water. So I shredded them first, washed them as thoroughly as I can, and I got a lot of gunk out during the washing. I mean, the water was gray and pretty disgusting. So there was a lot of crap just inside the cans. So it definitely made them cleaner, and I was able to ensure that they were basically bone dry, because you really don't want to have any water in your melts. What I don't know is how much better the metal actually is having been washed. So I'll need to do some comparisons over time, but my inclination is that by getting rid of any sugars and water and mold and anything like that, that the quality of the metal will actually be quite a bit better. And last, I had a lot of comments in the kiln build about preheating the gas. And I think on one hand, it's a really good idea because you would definitely boost the temperatures, but it's also a potentially really dangerous idea because if you preheat the air gas propane mix, it has a flash point. So if you get it too hot, it's just gonna combust. And you could try to regulate it with thermocouples and things, but then you're reliant on those being accurate and working. And at this scale of project, I think it's just a lot safer not to preheat it, but it's definitely something I'll consider if I get into a more advanced kiln build. Okay, that's it for now. Please shoot any other questions and comments you have, and I'll try to address them either in the comments or on another video like this. And remember, likes and subscribes help the channel grow a lot, and you can help us directly over on Patreon. So thanks for watching. Get out there and build something, pay attention to safety, and I'll see you next time.